Om Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutastunvanti Divyaistavaihi वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तन्न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. It's a very auspicious day today because we're going to be starting our study into the Bhagavad Gita. As we all know, this Grantha, the Bhagavad Gita, has taken such an important place in Sanatana Dharma today that it is undoubtedly the most popularly known text. Any follower of Sanatana Dharma, there are people who don't even know how many Vedas there are or how many divisions there are in the Vedas. They might have never heard of a Vedic mantra or the meaning of those mantras, but everyone knows what the Bhagavad Gita is. And that is the important spot that it holds. And when we say Sanatana Dharma, generally we simply translate it or understand it as Hinduism, but it's a lot deeper than that, because when you look at the words, Sanatana means eternal. Now the word Dharma is very interesting. It has so many different meanings to it, but when you look at the root word in Sanskrit, it comes from a root called Dhr. And the meaning of this root is to hold or sustain in this context. So if we really have to translate Sanatana Dharma while retaining the original essence, it would be the eternal principles that sustain the universe. This is the best way we can translate it. The eternal principles of sustenance. These are the laws, or these are the eternal principles based on which this entire creation is running. Now there are very, very advanced spiritual souls who are able to directly realize this, and because we are not of that same caliber, they were kind enough to write it down and pass it down to us. These spiritual souls are whom we refer to as the Vedic rishis. That's why the way we understand this dharma is through the Vedas. That's why it's also called the Vaidika Sanatana Dharma. Those eternal principles of sustaining the universe as expressed by the rishis in the Vedas. So what we are essentially trying to do is, through the study of the Vedas or through the study of this Dharma, we are trying to reach the same spiritual goal that all of them had attained. But on the way there is so much that is required. On the way we need food, we need to live a life in this world, we have family, we have children, we have responsibilities. So the Vedas essentially cover every single thing, every single aspect of your life. There is no aspect of our daily lives that has not been covered in the Vedas. But the problem is, the Vedic literature is such that it is very poetic, because when the rishis envisioned this, their state was so high that they spoke in a language that a lot of us struggle with right now. Even if you know Sanskrit generally, Vedic Sanskrit is an entirely different ballgame. Just with the knowledge of conversational Sanskrit, or with the knowledge required to read, let's say, Kalidasa's poems, or even the Puranas for that matter, you cannot understand the Vedas. Because that is a completely different, there are completely different grammatical nuances involved. So there was a lot of confusion because of this. And in order to set right this confusion, in different times, different rishis have blessed us with various granthas. Valmiki Maharshi blessed us with the Ramayanam, Vyasa Maharshi blessed us with the Puranas and the Itihasas, and the Itihasa called Mahabharatam is where this Grantha called Bhagavad Gita appears. But it is just 700 shlokas out of 1 lakh shlokas. The Mahabharata in its entirety is 1 lakh shlokas, out of which only 700 is the Bhagavad Gita. And because of this also, somewhere it got lost. Even though this teaching is so beautiful and can fundamentally change the way that you look at life, it was a very small portion of a very huge text, so over time it was lost. And then came Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya, who saw that there was utter confusion in society. In fact, one of the names in Acharya's Ashtotram is Dvisaptati Matochetre Namaha, which means he eradicated 72 different schools of thought which were misinterpreting the Vedas. People, as per their own whims and fancies, they want to do something, so they started looking for Shastra Pramana for it. There are many people you will find like this. They will cherry pick from the Shastras. Whichever is favorable to them, whatever they want to do, they will find a way to justify it through the Shastras. In the sense, they don't want to bend as per the Shastras, they want the Shastras to bend as per them. And people do this with the law as well. We want to see what loophole can we find in the tax code, what loophole can we find in the penal code. This is what we are interested in. I should be a good citizen who follows the tax code and the legal code, nobody cares. But how can I exploit the loopholes in these codes? That is how the human brain thinks. Similarly, it happened with the Shastras, where people started misinterpreting and misusing the Vedas to satisfy their desires and to live a life which has nothing to do with spirituality. And on top of which they were saying this is what the Vedas are advocating. So what Jagadguru Shankaracharya did is that he systematized the study of Vedas. And to understand the Vedas, it is also very important to understand the final goal. For example, if you tell a child, you have to wear your uniform correctly, your shoes need to be clean, you have to be punctual to school, you have to have this much attendance, you have to be disciplined, don't get into trouble, study well, do your homework, do your assignments. The basic question arises, why should I do all of this? So then you will say, only then you will pass. And then what? Why should I pass? Then you will get into college. Why should I get into college? Then you will get a job. Why should I get a job? Because only then you can earn money, and we live in a capitalistic society. So without money, you can't buy anything. So money will give you a comfortable life. People say happy and comfortable life, but that happy is very questionable. So I'll just stick with money can give you a comfortable life. Material comforts money can buy you. That's what it is designed to do. You can't expect more from it. So then the end goal is clear. Okay, so ultimately I need food, I need a place to stay, I need clothes, I have so many needs in life. And in order to satisfy these needs, I need money. For a money, I need a college degree. For a college degree, I have to complete school. And to finish school, these rules and regulations I have to follow. Because only when these rules are followed, the intention is that you will, if this discipline is there, only then you will study. Because studies or intellectual knowledge alone will not take you anywhere. Along with that, discipline has to be there. Just a slight deviation. What our Shastra does is it adds 2 more steps to this process. We think knowledge, then work, then money. Right? This is how we think about it. Knowledge or degree, education, whatever you want to call it, that will give us a good role in society, a job. And from that job, we get money, and from that money, we get happiness. This is how we think of the process. But the Shastras add an extra step. The Shastras say, Vidya dadati vinayam. Your knowledge should give you humility. It should give you discipline and humility. Vinayadhyati patratam. Now this knowledge combined with discipline and knowledge combined with humility will give you a good job in society. Patratvad dhanamapnoti. From this role in society that you have, by carrying out this role in society, what will you get? Dhanam. You get money. Then does money give you happiness? Shastra says, no, you're skipping a step. Dhanat dharmam tatas sukham. So with the money that you have, with the resources that you have, you do good, you do dharma. From that you will be happy. Money by itself will not make you happy. With the money that you have, if you perform dharma, only then you will be happy. And this step of humility and the step of dharma is what we have ignored in our modern education. where we have skipped from knowledge directly to job, we have trying to skip directly from money to happiness, but without these two it will fall apart. If the knowledge doesn't give you humility and if the money doesn't enable you to do dharma, then there is no point to it. So when we look at the Vedas, what is the final goal? In our worldly life, final goal is lead a comfortable life. But the Vedas speak about something much greater than that. There is a comfortable life here, there is a comfortable life after death, and there are 6 different heavens that you get to choose from. The 7 heavens are there totally, but we are already in the first heaven. Bhuloka is considered the first heaven. So there is Bhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. These are the 7 Urdhva-lokas, the 7 heavens. And then you have the Patala lokas below us as well. But our goal is to try and go to the Urdhva-lokas. So how can you go to heaven after this life is over? The different varieties of heaven that exists. That also the Vedas speak about. But even that is not complete. Because Bhagavad Gita itself says, Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam kshine purnye matyalokam vishanti. So once you have generated a lot of punya karma, you have done dharma, that gives you punya. With this you go to Swarga. Once your punya is over, they will kick you out. This is the idea. Then again we are back into the samsara. Like Acharya says, Punarapi jananam, Punarapi maranam, Punarapi janani jathare shayam. We are born again, we die again we come and fall in our mother's womb. Where does this end? This conclusion is what we refer to as Vedanta. Anta literally means end or the conclusion. The conclusion of all knowledge, the conclusion of all our suffering, the conclusion of this problem of samsara, all of this is found in the end of the Vedas or the final conclusion of the Vedas, which we refer to as Vedanta. And what is Vedanta? It is that school of thought which is based on the Upanishads. Vedanto nama Upanishad Pramana. There is a section of the Vedas called the Upanishads. There are many sections. There is Samhita, Brahmanam, Aranyakam and Upanishad. Upanishad comes as a part of the Aranyaka. So this Upanishad contains the final conclusion of the Vedas. So what Acharya realized is people are getting so confused with interpretations because they don't know what the end is. They don't know the end goal. Without knowing the end goal, they're trying to create some meaning of the Vedas. That's why this confusion is there. So let us systematize the study of this end goal called Vedanta. So once this becomes clear, then people also gain enough clarity about the path to reach there. So for this, Acharya wrote Bhashyas on the Prasthana Traya. Bhashya is a commentary. The first is called the Shruti Prasthana, which is the Dashopanishad Bhashyam. That fundamental text, those fundamental texts of Vedanta which are from the Upanishads. There are 10 Upanishads on which Acharya has written a Bhashya. Then second, you have the Bhagavad Gita, which is called the Smriti Prasthana. These Itihasas and Puranas come under the category of a Smriti Grantha. So from the ocean called Mahabharata, Acharya gave us this pearl called Bhagavad Gita. And from the time of Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya until today, there is not a single major spiritual tradition which has not touched the Gita. Not a single tradition has said we don't want the Bhagavad Gita. So whether they agree with Acharya's interpretation or not, ultimately the fact that he recognized the depth of this Grantha and gave it the status as one of the most fundamental texts of Sanatana Dharma, which still stands today. To this day it still stands. That contribution of Acharya is something that we can never forget, and every follower of Sanatana Dharma, regardless of the school of thought, must be grateful to Acharya. And the third one is called the Nyaya Prasthana, which is the Brahma Sutra Bhashyam by Brahma Sutras by Vyasa Maharshi. What Vyasa Maharshi did is he realized when people read the Upanishads directly, there is a lot of confusions that arise. So he wrote these sutras. Sutras are like formulas. It's very short. Athato Brahma Jignasa. This is one sutra. Janmadhyasya Yataha. Shastra Yonitvat. All of these are individual sutras. So for this, Vyasa Maharshi used the ancient Indian system of logic called the Nyaya Shastra. So using that perspective of Nyaya, Vyasa Maharshi composed the Brahma Sutras. But again, because it's so short and compact, you needed someone to unpack it, which is what Acharya did in his Brahma Sutra Bhashya. Typically, if you ask me in the order of difficulty, Gita Bhashyam would be the easiest and the first that you will approach if you want to read the Bhashya literature. Then you go to Upanishad Bhashyam. There also you first take up the smaller Upanishads, like Kathopanishad is a very accessible Upanishad. Then you have the Mundaka Upanishad. Then slowly you come to Isha, Kena, Taittiriya, Aitareya, all of that. Then finally you have these huge Upanishads called Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka. So there is a certain order in which it is studied. So out of this, so today we are going to start with Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the Prasthanatrayas, and beyond that, one of the most fundamental texts of Sanatana Dharma. We won't be going one shloka at a time, but wherever required, we will slow down and look at those particular shlokas in full details. There might be days where an entire chapter gets finished in one day, and there might be days where one shloka itself we take an entire day. So there is no fixed schedule that we are going by. We are just trying to see the best we can do with the time available to us. So the Bhagavad Gita starts. Dhritarashtra uvacha dharmakshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavah mamakah pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. But before we get into the shloka itself, another important point I wanted to mention, considering this is an online satsang. Okay, so there are certain things that happen offline automatically for which we have to put effort online. First thing, if you come in person, you switch off your phone and sit. For the next 1.5 hours, nobody will disturb you. Nobody can disturb you. Right? Nobody at home can disturb you. But when you're sitting at home and listening, everybody in your home has access to you. So what you need to do first thing before sitting every day is, please inform your family to not disturb you during this 1 hour. Of course, if you have small children, there's not much that you can do about it. But considering you live with reasonable adults, you have to make it clear to them that this 1.5 hours, you don't want to be disturbed at any cost. And I'm not saying, because a lot of people misuse this also. I've seen it happen time and again in satsangs where one person will say, satsang, and they'll keep escaping all their family responsibilities. Now their husband or wife will then come to the guru and say, in the name of satsang, my husband or wife is neglecting the family, neglecting the kids. Now this poor guru has to sit and become a marriage counselor for them. I've seen it happen so many times. So my point is not to say you have to escape from your duties. In fact, Krishna directly tells Arjuna, you have no right to escape from your duties. My point is, be intelligent and efficient enough in your work that you finish your work before this or go do it after this. During this time, let's not have any disturbances. Second point is, in a satsanga when you're coming in person, once you come and sit down, no matter how restless you feel, no matter how sleepy you feel, you cannot get up. Because you have said there are people who are sitting around you. If you get up, it will be a disturbance to the entire satsanga. So no matter how tired you feel, you cannot get up. You cannot stretch your leg, you can't lie down on the bed, nothing you can do. You have to sit in the same position. And this is very important. This is called asana jaya. Forget understanding what I'm saying, forget being able to focus your mind. The first step to satsanga is, can you sit for 1 hour without getting bored or restless? This is the first step. Focusing the mind comes later. Understanding comes later. Can you sit for 1 hour here physically? That is the first question. And initially, at some point this is going to happen. So I'm warning you in advance. At some point what will happen is, for some people this happens in the very beginning. For some people, initially there is the beginner's excitement. So somewhere around 2 months or 3 months later, this will happen, where you start to get really restless and sleepy during satsanga. It feels very boring. Half an hour into the satsanga, you start checking the time to see when I'm going to finish speaking. This is bound to happen sooner or later. It is simply because you don't have asana jaya. Sitting in a movie theater for 3 hours doesn't count, because there the mind is occupied with desires. To sit in a place where the mind is not occupied by desires is very, very difficult. And whether you like it or not, whether it feels boring or not, my guru always says, once you sit, don't get up. Whatever you record, you want water, keep it next to you, do whatever it takes. But whether you're listening to an online satsanga or you're listening to a recording also, make it a point, once it starts until it ends, I will not get up from my seat. No matter what. No matter how bored I feel, no matter how sleepy I feel. If you feel sleepy, sit and sleep. I will not mind. Because all of us have the habit of speaking at full day retreats. And sometimes when you get the post-lunch session, you get very, very comfortable with speaking to an audience where 50% is sleeping. One Swami told me this hilarious incident where there are some people sitting, this is how we sit in the satsanga. One group sits on the floor in front, another group sits behind on the chairs. So the person sitting in the first row of the chair, he fell asleep and he fell forward on the person sitting below him. Now, the best part of the story, the person on whom he fell, the person who was sitting on the floor, didn't realize this because he was also fast asleep. So we are very comfortable speaking to audiences like this. We are used to it, right? We will not take offense. I have heard people snore in the middle of satsang, so there is nothing that you can do that will make me feel bad. So don't worry, it's okay. But you don't get up from where you are. No matter how restless you feel, no matter how sleepy you feel, sit here. And sometimes it feels like, you know what, instead of listening to this now, why don't I pause this and listen to it tomorrow when I have mood? Or sometimes you will feel, anyway recording is there, now I'm feeling sleepy, I'll exit the meeting. Tomorrow I'll listen to that recording. The problem is you won't build discipline. You are letting your mind dictate when to listen to satsanga, when not to listen to satsanga. If you tell your mind, now we are going to listen to satsanga, the mind has to cooperate, not the other way around. And my guru says, some days, even if you haven't learnt anything, let's say on a particular day you are so sleepy, not a single thing entered your head, it is still okay. He compares it to soaking dirty clothes in soap water. When you leave clothes to soak in soap water, there is no action there. If you have to soak it for 1 hour, what is the action? Put water, put soap, leave it there. Put the clothes inside, leave it there. There is no washing, there is no scrubbing, nothing that's happening, but it's still working. So whether you understand or not, whether you pay attention or not, don't postpone it saying, I will listen to it at another time where I have better attention. That time will never come. By then, 1 class you will miss, 3 classes you will miss. By the time it feels too heavy to catch up and you will end up quitting the entire class. And then only when the next batch is announced, you will come and join. Again, first 2 months you will come and you will quit. This is what will happen. So it doesn't matter how you feel. In Indian languages, we have a term for this. For example, in Kannada, we say kivig beeldi. Let the sound fall into your ears. Whether it goes into your brain or not, we are not concerned. Let this sound fall into your ears. Because Bhagavatam says, what Bhagavan will do is, through the ears, he'll enter and purify your heart. The reason we are feeling bored in satsanga and entertained in a movie is because there is no chitta shuddhi. We don't have a pure heart. And if we say, after developing a pure heart, I'll come to satsanga, in this janma it won't happen. So what do? We come to satsanga anyway, no matter how impure our heart is. Then through satsanga itself, we purify ourselves. This is the second thing. No matter what, give this satsanga online or recording or however you're listening, the same importance that you will give if it is in person. How will you sit? How you want to switch off your phone, switch it off. Whatever you will do in person, do it. Now the third point is accountability. What happens when you're going in person is, if you don't come for 2-3 days, people will notice, especially the guru will notice. When I was very new to the satsanga, I remember a couple of days I didn't go and someone else messaged me saying, Guru was asking why you didn't come for the past 2 days. Are you okay? Are you sick or something like that? So then next time, even if I think of missing satsang, I feel like, you know what, today I'm tired, let me miss it. I'll know my guru will ask me. When he asks me tomorrow, what will I tell him? How can I tell him, no, I was a little tired? Or how can I tell him my friend's wedding was there, so I missed the satsang? It's not like he is going to scold me, he'll just ask. But that accountability is very important. But online, again, there is no accountability. It's very hard to say who is there, who is not there. It's very hard to even keep track of names online. So there's no one really who is keeping you in check and asking you and reminding you and encouraging you to come back here. So that you have to do it yourself. There is no way we can do it online. I can't come to each of your houses and check if you have logged into the Zoom call. So you will have to do that yourself. So while online brings certain conveniences of time, of region and time zone and things like that, it comes with these challenges. That is, you have to be very, very internally disciplined to make the best use of it. In person, externally the satsang members and the guru will kind of discipline you. But internally, here you have to be disciplined, and I will give you this free pass. If all the satsangs that we are going to do under this batch, if you have heard it, like in Kannada we say, kivig bidre saku. I don't care. At the end of 6 months, you say, I did not understand a single thing, I won't feel bad. But if you tell me every single word that has been uttered, it has fallen, that is good enough. This much if you can do, I can't get the standards lower than this. This much if you can do, then you are sorted. Okay, with that we'll enter the shloka. Bhagavad Gita itself starts with a very, very auspicious word. It starts with the word dharma. We spoke about Sanatana Dharma, where the word dharma comes from. So Bhagavad Gita also, in the very beginning, it starts with the word dharma. Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre. In this Dharmakshetra called Kurukshetra, the external meaning is that the Pandavas and Kauravas are at war with each other. This war is happening in the battlefield called Kurukshetra, and Dhritarashtra, who is the father of the Kauravas, he cannot see. So he is a blind king, and he has his assistant Sanjaya with him. Sanjaya has been blessed with a kind of supernatural sight, Divya Drishti as we call it, where whatever is happening in the battlefield, he can directly relay it to Dhritarashtra. So like a live commentary, Sanjaya is sitting and telling Dhritarashtra what is happening on the battlefield. So Dhritarashtra asks him the question, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. The people who want to fight have gathered on this battlefield. Then his language gets very interesting. He says, Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kima Kurvata Sanjaya. He says, what are my children doing and what are Pandavas doing? Now Pandavas are the son of Pandu, and Pandu is no one other than Dhritarashtra's own brother. And in the Mahabharata, in many places, he will say, oh, I see no difference between my own sons and the Pandavas, my brother's sons. They're my own brother's sons after all. I treat them like my own sons. But when push comes to shove, we know what the truth is. Immediately he says, Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kima Kurvata Sanjaya. What are we doing? What is the internal meaning of this? Dharmakshetra is this samsara. We have all come here to do dharma. Bhagavatam says, when we were in our mother's womb, Bhagavan shows us a picture with all our past janmas. He shows us a highlight reel from all of our past janmas. And looking at that, we get so scared. That fetus inside the womb gets so scared and says, this janma I will not waste. In this janma, somehow I will do Adhyatma Sadhana, somehow I will listen to Bhagavad Gita, and I will cross the ocean of samsara so that there is no rebirth for me. But then what happens? We come to Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra, the word Kuru in Sanskrit means to do. If I look at someone and say Kuru, that means I'm asking them to do something. So this is the field of action. We have all come to do dharma. But what are we doing? Are we really doing dharma? Are we really serving the purpose for which we took this birth? We have to ask ourselves. In another way, one Swami interprets Kurukshetra is, it is our field of action. For Arjuna, it was an actual battlefield. For us, it could be an office, it could be a family, it could be a business, it could be anything. This Kurukshetra is not just the battlefield where Arjuna and the Kauravas or the Pandavas and the Kauravas fought. It is the battlefield which all of us are facing every single day. In our own lives, in our own capacities, all of us are fighting battles. That is our Kurukshetra. Because otherwise, why will the teaching given to a warrior in the middle of a battlefield be relevant to us? None of us are in the army. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think anyone here is going to fight a war. Why does this become relevant to us? It's because All of us are in our own Kurukshetras. For Arjuna, it was an actual battlefield in the real sense of the word. For us, it is some other battlefield, but a battle nevertheless. And in this battlefield, what are we doing? We are, like Dhritarashtra, blinded by attachment. Dhritarashtra being blind is not just literal, it is metaphorical to say he was blinded by attachment. He is the reason for this entire war. If he had kept his children in line, none of this would have happened. If he had been a good father and given good advice to his children, none of this would have happened. Because he is blinded by attachment, what is he doing? Mamakaha Pandavaha. He is splitting. And this is exactly what we do. We are so attached to everyone, we are so attached to everything. Everything in life we look in terms of mine and others. I, me, myself, someone else. If my house catches fire, it's a tragedy. If someone else's house catches fire, it's just a news item. If there's a death in my family, it's a tragedy. If there's a death in somebody in the neighbor's house also, we'll just say, what to do, life is like that, everyone who is born has to die. That Viveka will not be there when someone in your house is passed away and you're crying. So everywhere what we do is I versus the rest of the world. I, me, in extension mine and the rest of the world. And we see this manifesting everywhere. What the ego does is, it is a storyteller. I am not the only storyteller on this call. Every single one of you has a storyteller within, and it's called your ego. What this ego does is, very intelligently, whatever life's experience is there, it will take that. But stories is never facts, right? It is facts with a perspective. It will write the story from the perspective that makes you look like a good person. So if you score good marks in the exam, you studied hard. If you don't score good marks, then the paper was difficult or the examiner was strict. If you get a promotion, it was your hard work. But if you don't get a promotion, it's office politics. So nothing is your fault. We are perfect. We will sit here at home, unable to climb even to the second floor without an elevator. But then we will give advice on how international cricket players should play better. We will sit here in the comfort of our houses and tell what soldiers standing on the border should do. Why? Because I am always right. How can I possibly be wrong? My perspective is the only perspective that is there in the world. Everyone else, that doesn't matter. They don't know what they're talking about. You go to any institution where, let's say, there's a committee of people running this institution and there are 10 people in the committee. You ask any one of them, they will say, I only do 80% of the work. All of them put together, they only do 20% of the work. Because for everyone, their efforts, their time, their money, their family is important. What is not mine is not important to me. Let them die, so what? That's what Dhritarashtra is saying. He doesn't care if his brother's children die in the war that he caused. But are his children safe? That is what he wants to know. So as long as we are a slave to this ego, we will also keep looking at life like this. We won't have an unbiased perspective. Only when we learn to take a step back from the ego and see things from a more neutral perspective, a lot of our life's problems will be solved. The moment we detach from this ego that is constantly insisting that I am the most intelligent person, my ideas are correct, my opinions are correct, the moment we learn to even take a step back from it, we are successful. If we are fully engaged with it, we end up like Dhritarashtra. So he wants to know what his children are doing. Basically, that is the question. He has made it very clear. What is my self-interest in this war? If my children win the war, they'll take good care of me. If my children don't win the war, the Pandavas might kill me also. So ultimately, even beyond children, he only cares about himself. He only wants to know how is this war going to affect me. One philosopher said, a pinprick on your little finger is more painful than a war on the other side of the world. There might be a war, there might be thousands of people dying. But a pinprick on your little finger is a bigger problem because it's my little finger. So this is what Dhritarashtra is asking. Then Sanjaya replies. Sanjaya is the person who is narrating all the incidents of the battlefield to Dhritarashtra. So what the scene he describes is Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra's son, is walking up to Dronacharya, who is the guru. Dronacharya is the common guru for both the Pandavas and the Kauravas. He trained all of them in the art of warfare. So what the Duryodhana does is he walks up to Dronacharya and he taunts him. So here itself very clearly established is the character of Duryodhana. He is arrogant enough to go taunt his guru, who is also one of the most important people in his army. And just the way he speaks to his guru, you will know what his character is. The third shloka says, Pashyetam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudham Drupata Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimatam. He says, Oh Acharya, he just uses the word Acharya, but there's not really any respect there. He says, Oh Acharya, look, on the other side of the battlefield, the sons of Pandu are all standing in a beautiful formation. Who has created this formation? The son of Drupada. So Drishtadyumna has created this formation, and he says, Tava Shishyena Dhimata. He is taunting his guru and saying, are you proud of the fact that your students are all standing on the other side of the battlefield? Poor thing, Dronacharya is dragged into this battle and he is standing on the side of Adharma because of his loyalty to his kingdom. It was a very difficult choice for both Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya, because the position that they are in, to go against the words of the king or to go to the opposite side is also Adharma. But their king is also doing Adharma. So they are stuck in this weird position, where if they cross over and go to the other side, that is also Adharma, because they have betrayed their own king. But their own king is doing Adharma. So they either stand by a king who does Adharma, or they cross over and go to the other side, which results in Adharma for them. So he himself is in the situation which we refer to as a Dharma Sankata. This is used in a lot of Indian languages as well. We say it was a Dharma Sankata, which means it's a lose-lose situation. There's no win-win here. There's no win-lose here. It is a lose-lose situation. And amidst all of this, Duryodhana has the arrogance to taunt him and say, see, are you proud of all your students who are standing on the other side of the battlefield? Now compare this with the attitude of Yudhishthira. What Dharmaputra does is, suddenly before the battle was about to begin, he dropped all his weapons and he crossed over to the other side. And everyone is shocked. He's come without weapons, so you can't attack him. But he's suddenly walking towards the Kaurava Sena. And what does he do? He goes and does Namaskaram to Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya, and he goes back. So even while standing on the other side of the battlefield, he gives respect to his guru and his granduncle. He knows because of some prarabdha we are on opposite side of the battlefield, but that doesn't change the respect and reverence that I have for you. This is Dharmaputra. Duryodhana, on top of forcing them to do something wrong and causing this war, he has the arrogance to taunt his own teacher in the middle of a battlefield. And then he goes on to say, Nayaka mama sainyasya samknyartam tan bravimite. He says, oh Dronacharya, to the person who taught him how to pick up a bow and arrow, he's saying, let me list out the warriors of my army. This is Duryodhana. This is the reason for this battle. So if you are so consumed by ego, it's not a surprise, because his father is also consumed by ego, the son is also consumed by ego. It completely changes the way you look at life. It colors your perception and it makes you do things that otherwise you would not even imagine. And he goes on to list, first he lists all the members on the Pandava side, then he lists all the members on their own side, and then Duryodhana himself has a weird realization. He says, Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam paryaptam tvidametesham balam bhimabhirakshitam. He looks at that army. On the other side of the army, there are 11 Akshauhinis. I mean, on the Kaurava side of the army, there are 11 Akshauhinis. For Akshauhini, there is a certain calculation. It is so many horse, so many foot soldiers, so many charioteers, so many Maharathas. There is a particular calculation for it. So many elephants and all of that. So there is 11 on the Kaurava side. And there is 7 on the Pandava side, which means they have a upper hand. In terms of numbers, Kauravas clearly have an upper hand in the ratio of 11:7. But when he looks at that side, he feels, and Duryodhana himself, this arrogant person also is able to recognize that even though they have only 7 Akshauhinis, for some reason their Sainya feels complete. And even though we have 11 Akshauhinis, we have almost 1.5 times their strength. in terms of numbers, our side feels incomplete. And why does that side feel complete? Why does this side feel incomplete? It is because of the presence of one person who has sworn not to fight. Bhagavan is on that side. If Bhagavan is on your side, no matter how much material wealth you have or there is a lack of material wealth and resources, your life will be full. If Bhagavan is not on your side, if Dharma is not on your side, no matter how much money you have, when you look at that, you will feel that there is a certain lack there. You will feel a certain unfulfilled feeling there. That is how people come to spirituality. We earn money, we do so many things, but after accumulating so much wealth also, we don't feel fulfilled, just like Duryodhana. And the story is actually very beautiful. How did Krishna end up on the Pandava side? Once the war is decided, both Arjuna and Duryodhana go at the same time to Krishna to seek his help. Duryodhana, out of his arrogance, sits near Krishna's head. Arjuna, out of his humility, sits near Krishna's feet. And Bhagavan is happily sleeping, like we see in the Dhyana Shloka, Shantakaram Bhujaga Shayanam. Here there is no Bhujaga, but on the bed he is happily, peacefully taking an afternoon nap. Naturally, when you're sleeping and you wake up, you will see who is towards your foot. When someone is sitting behind your head, you will not see that. So he first sees Arjuna and he asks, what happened? Why are you here? And both of them explain, saying, we have come seeking your help and you have to be impartial. You can't say, I will help one person, I won't help the other person. You have to be impartial. So Krishna says, okay, I'll give you the choice. On one side, I will come, but I will not touch any weapons. And I will come alone. And for the other person, I will give my entire Narayani Sena. I will give my entire army to the other person. And the twist is, Arjuna gets the first choice. Duryodhana immediately protests and says, how does Arjuna get the first choice? Why don't I get the first choice? He says, it's very simple. I saw him first. You both might have come together in the same chariot, but I saw him first. So he gets first preference. Second point is also, Duryodhana, you are older to Arjuna. So typically when you have to choose between an older brother and a younger brother, the preference is given to the smaller child. In this case, Arjuna. So now Duryodhana is fully tensed. This Arjuna will take the Narayani Sena. What will I do with Krishna, one person? On top of that, he's saying, for a war I will come, but I will not fight. What will I do with this useless fellow? Duryodhana is fully tensed, but Arjuna says, Bhagavan, I want you. I don't care about the Narayani Sena, I want you. And then Duryodhana laughs loudly and thinks, what a fool, but thank God I am safe. I get the entire Narayani Sena. But on that day in the battlefield, Duryodhana realizes his mistake. He realizes how no matter what big of an army you have, if Bhagavan is not on your side, your life remains unfulfilled. But if Bhagavan is on your side, even if the army is smaller, even if your material wealth and the resources that you have are smaller, you will still be successful. Now, the camera moves to the other side of the battlefield. And by this time already, while this conversation is happening, suddenly Bhishmacharya, he gets that vigor and enthusiasm and he blows his conch. And listening to him blow his conch, it is said Simhanadam. It is like the roar of a lion. Bhishmacharya, one of the veteran warriors, probably one of the most experienced warriors on that battlefield, he is blowing his conch and everyone is just everyone gets excited that Bhishmacharya is there to lead us. They start playing the drums and they start blowing the conch, and it just creates a lot of that noise which gives them that enthusiasm for war. They start playing all the war drum beats. Now on the other hand, other side, what happens? First person to blow the conch is Krishna. Ideally, Yudhishthira has to blow or Arjuna has to blow, but Bhagavan blows the conch. This shows that it is not Yudhishthira or Arjuna who is fighting this battle. It is Bhagavan who is fighting against adharma. It is not the personal motive of Yudhishthira or Arjuna to win this battle that is at the forefront. The story looks like that. That Yudhishthira, Arjuna, they have been, and the rest of the Pandavas have been cheated by Duryodhana. So they are back here for revenge. But that is just a reason. Bhagavan is using this opportunity to put an end to adharma. But why did poor Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya have to die in this process? It's because they have unfortunately reached a point where they are refusing to question Duryodhana's misdeeds. See, if a normal soldier in the army or a normal citizen says, how can I question Duryodhana? He is the king, it is understandable. But Duryodhana is committing all these atrocities, and Bhishmacharya and Dronacharya are not questioning him, they are not scolding him, they are not trying to discipline him. They are just saying, no, we have to listen to our king, and they are also complicit in all of this. So, even if they are there, even if their presence is there, considering the fact that they are no longer correcting Duryodhana when he makes mistakes, they have also become complicit in the crimes. They say the violence of bad people is not as dangerous as the silence of good people. Even the bad people you can change. But when good people start joining hands with them and become complicit with the crime, then it becomes even more difficult, because now you have two good people who are fighting on the side of bad, which makes the situation all the more complex. So this entire Kurukshetra Yuddha is not a family dispute, it is Bhagavan's fight against adharma. We will continue this in the next satsang. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarvapapebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha.